This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. It is Monday, October 3rd. Here are your top stories of the day. Hunting and fishing giant Bass Pro Shops is acquiring competitor Cabela's for $5.5 billion in an all-cash deal that will combine the two iconic American retailers. Privately held Bass Pro and publicly traded Cabela announced they had entered into a definitive agreement under which Bass Pro Shops will acquire Cabela's for $65.50 per share in cash. There is a Bass Pro in Central Arkansas and a Cabela's in Northwest Arkansas. GC Evans Sales and Manufacturing and Sleeve Seal today announced that they are expanding their operations in Little Rock. As part of the expansion, the two companies will invest a combined $6.4 million and create 43 new jobs. GC Evans has had a presence in Little Rock for more than 8 decades. The family-owned business manufactures packaging and processing equipment for the food, bottling, and pharmaceutical industries. Lastly, Mac Fasteners, a high-volume manufacturer of screws and bolts for the aerospace industry, plans to shut down its 25,000 square foot plant in Paris, Arkansas, and consolidate that facility into the company's larger operations in Ottawa, Kansas. That should affect the Paris workforce of around 80 workers, according to last count. Of course, you can keep up with those top headlines and many others on our website at talkbusiness.net. Now, after the break, if it's Monday, it's John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. He'll be here for a look at last week's presidential debate, what played out afterwards, and the upcoming next presidential debate. Plus, Wes Brown is here for 4 minutes, 4 questions, and we'll explore the latest from the Fed's Burgundy book. We're back after this.
First Security is here. Only here. So that means we're here, here, and here. Even here. And definitely here. Because here is where we want to be for you. First Security Bank. Only in Arkansas.
Arkansas's most abundant natural resource provides the core asset for Deltic Timber Corporation. In addition to the sustainable yield stewardship of its well-stocked timberlands, Deltic adds value by integrating its efficient wood products manufacturing facilities, as well as through planned development of commercial and residential real estate. Deltic Timber Corporation, creating value for a growing Arkansas.
Time now to talk politics with John Brummett. It is a Monday after all, correct?
If it's Monday?
It's John Brummett.
Yeah.
That's right. I like it.
We started that last week, and you tried to abandon it after 1 week.
Okay. Well, we're going to keep it going.
Okay.
I like it. All right. October surprise. We just got like a day into October, and all of a sudden Donald Trump's 1995 tax return miraculously appears in the New York Times mailbox there. Shows that he had a $961 million loss, something he could carry forward for 18 years, allegedly. Mm-hmm. Is he a genius? Is he a poor businessman? Or is he a victim in all of this?
He is a victim of somebody releasing his tax return, which is against the law. He is not a genius, but his accountant is as good as any other accountant, knowing how to take advantage of the opportunities. He is doing what he can do. He had a magnificent loss, and magnificent in size, and he took it.
Huge, even.
Yes, and he availed himself of it, and he apparently paid no taxes, income taxes. And what's more, as I understand it, he could carry that magnitude of loss over 18 years and offset up to $50 million a year in taxes over 18 years. That's different from my tax return. Is it different from your tax return?
Just
a little?
Barely, not much.
But it's set off a pretty good argument about whether our tax policy ought to reward risk takers and entrepreneurship and do that kind of thing, or whether it ought to be what it was first designed to be, which is a progressive rates in which we take what people are able to pay according to their ability to pay to support the government. But it's a remarkable political loser, surely, to have paid no income tax.
So that's how you think it plays out. It plays out with his base. They will protect him and
sure.
still.
Well, the base will protect him on anything.
Right.
But and I think the idea that he's a genius is not as Giuliani said on television yesterday, is not a factor here. His accountant did it, and even the accountant said the kids were more engaged than Donald, and he just says, do it,
right.
do my taxes. But I do think it's a legitimate debate, and we're going to hear that debate. Like, okay, I paid no income tax. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But if I didn't, the government allowed it, and they allowed it because I'm out here taking risks, and I'm out here starting businesses, and I'm out here trying to hire people. And what's wrong with that? I think we may be headed toward that kind of debate, but it's a policy debate, and Trump doesn't much do policy debates. Plus, it's a loser. I mean, nearly everybody in the country has paid some tax.
Right.
And they're not going to, I think there'll be an overwhelming recoiling against this notion that a man that wealthy paid none.
Particularly with independent voters or that small sliver of potentially undecided voters. So the New York Times ethics are in question over this because they released this tax return. There could potentially be more. We got a no comment when it was asked, will there be more coming? Do you defend the New York Times move in this, or do you question it?
Yes.
That's an ambiguous answer now,
well,
come on.
But it's an honest answer. I do defend it. This is important business. I mean, this guy, this new kind of political being is within reach of the presidency of the United States. He has not done what presidential candidates have done since Watergate, or maybe before, which is release his income taxes.
They are not required to do.
They're not required. It's a media-invented rule, and it's been an accepted rule. They got the information. They spent weeks going over it. They had a reasonable basis for believing it to be authentic, and they analyzed it. I defend it. I defend it. I do. But I'm glad I was not the editor having to deal with it. I'd rather.
Well, explain the dilemma to me here. Why would you not have wanted to be in that position?
Well, if it is against the law for people's taxes to be released, and if somebody did that, then you're it's sort of theft by receiving, isn't it? Isn't it a little bit like that? We're in receipt of something we're not supposed to have. And that should give anyone pause. But usually in a newspaper editorial decision, a tie goes to releasing the information that's what they exist to do.
This is not the first time that a newspaper or a news media organization has been in receipt of something that it is dubious or questionable whether they should have
papers?
it. Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
This is
in the national interest is the argument.
That is the argument, and I support it. I'm just it's tough.
Yeah.
It is a difficult decision, and we ought to respect our good, responsible newspaper editors more than we do for having to deal with that kind of issue.
Yeah.
And I think generally people would prefer to have that information than not.
A week ago, you and I were sitting here at the desk, and we were prepping for the first debate.
Yes.
It happened. I love one of your tweets there. You said, quote, "He left no bait unconsumed." This led to the Machado attacks. It led to the Giuliani comments of epic proportions there. Did this qualify as a meltdown for Donald Trump this week?
Roby. You know, I don't have the credential to diagnose a man's disorder, his emotional disorder. I don't. And an actual doctor, a professional, should not make such a diagnosis just by watching somebody on television. But he's got a disorder. He's got an megalomaniacal disorder. And yes, if a candidate for president cannot let go a horrible, damaging to him misstatement that he made 20 years ago, if he is so ego-sensitive that he can't stand to be bested that way, that he can't let it go, to the point that he's repeating it every day, and getting up at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. I started to say 3 a.m. in the morning, which is my least favorite redundancy. 3 a.m. and tweeting from 3 to 5 and saying, go look at her sex tape, which apparently did not exist. And this guy's running for president. I don't know if you call that a meltdown. I don't know if we've ever defined the parameters of a meltdown in a presidential candidate. This is surely the closest to it by far any major candidate for president has ever come.
It's a political meltdown. I'm not asking you to diagnose the medical side of this, but it's a political meltdown.
Yes. There's Hillary opened, and listen, watch this pattern. This was his worst week and probably a worse week since the one after the Democratic convention. Do you see the pattern? When he gets bested, when they get him, when he has when the Democrats score points on him, as they did time and again in the convention, he can't, the only losses he can cut are the $961 million on his taxes. He can't cut his political losses. He can't cut his debate losses. He obsesses on it. He can't stand to be bested. And then Hillary beat him in the debate, sort of. Mainly he beat himself. He just utterly destroyed, just performed absurdly. But she got him on the Miss Venezuela, Miss Universe thing, and he simply can't let it go.
Yeah.
So he is most dangerous to himself, to others, and to our political dialogue when he is bested and he can't deal with it. He wants to somehow recover and recoup, and he just makes it worse. And if you're Kellyanne Conway, how are you not having your own meltdown, trying to deal with this person?
Well, you're checking your bank account is one of the things that you're doing. Imagine
being his main political consultant, and you wake up and you realize that at 3 a.m. he was tweeting about a porn tape. Imagine that you're. Is that?
Well, that's simplifying it quite a bit, but yeah,
but that's what
happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, so we're on the eve of a vice presidential debate, Tim Kaine versus Mike Pence. Does it matter?
Not much to me, and I doubt much to anybody. We've had major moments in vice presidential debates. Senator, you know Jack Kennedy, I knew Jack, and things
Who
like
am
that.
I? Why am I
Who
here?
am I? Why am I here?
Right.
And they were interesting, and they got some headlines, and then after about 12 hours, attention returned to the two main combatants. And when the two main combatants are these two, Hillary and Trump, it's not. Having said this, somebody may say something that'll be a major, but I can't imagine it. It'll be kind of interesting to watch and to see which of these guys, a heartbeat from the presidency, how they perform. But it's not. It's almost certainly not to be a matter of consequence.
It's never swung an election ever in history that I can speak of.
I would wonder if it's ever swung a vote. I mean,
Yeah.
it swings the mood or the punditocracy's discussion for a few hours, but in the end it gets back to the main guys, but especially these main guys, because they take all the energy.
Preview of Tuesday's column. What you got?
Tuesday's column is, let me tell you about the next two briefly. Tomorrow's column is on this notion, a part of Trump's fighting back against the Clintons. Well, Hillary's an enabler of her husband's sexual misconduct and trying to resurrect that. And it analyzes from my years of watching the Clintons what that's all about. People will want to read that. And then on Wednesday, it's comparing Trump's taxes to a middle-class guy's taxes. And some sort of composite character out there, and letting people judge. Is this fair or is it not?
It'll be good stuff. You can check it out at the Arkansas Democrat in the newspaper and online at arkansasonline.com.
Tomorrow's in the newspaper and Wednesday's online only.
They're all online, though, eventually.
They are, of course.
All right, he's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All
right. We're back with more right after this word from our sponsors.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
As Arkansas's population grows, so do our energy demands. But with the right mix of resources, reliable, affordable power will always be a reality. These resources are all around us in our rivers, blowing through our trees, even right below our feet. The answer isn't focusing on one resource, it's embracing them all. The electric cooperatives of Arkansas know that a balanced approach to power builds our communities and powers our dreams. Visit themixmatters.com and see why there's power in knowledge.
Lots of interesting and generally positive economic news rolled out this past week. I'm joined by Talk Business and Politics Wes Brown for 4 minutes, 4 questions. Welcome back.
All right. You want me to go first?
You go.
Okay. There are 4 referendums on the November 8th ballot. There's 7, but there's 4 that have to do with economic development or business. So tell me about those 4 and which one do you think will kind of get passed?
All right, so there's the bond expansion amendment. I think it's issue 3. There's medical marijuana, has an economic component to it, casinos, and medical tort reform.
All right,
so
good,
there's the
good.
4. I would say of those 4, which ones pass? Right now, they all got a little bit of a challenge, you know. But I would say the one that would have the biggest economic impact.
Okay.
Conventional wisdom would be the bond expansion one, but I think it's little used. I think the medical marijuana one, if it were to pass, would have the biggest repercussions on the Arkansas economy because it would be a daily ripple effect in the economy with distribution and cultivation and regulation. So, all right, that's my pick.
Okay.
So let me go to you.
All right.
There have been some economic reports, as I alluded to in our introduction there. GDP better than expected, personal income up a little bit there. Business contacts from the Fed's Burgundy book, giving some upbeat news there. What's your biggest takeaway?
I think
from
the
Burgundy
takeaway
book?
is that the GDP was, that the momentum was for the economy was better than expected. But for Arkansas, all of these reports were pretty good. I mean, they had some really good news, and generally Arkansas generally falls behind the rest of the United States. And in all of these reports, we're seeing that Arkansas is a little bit ahead of the rest of the United States, which is great news for Arkansas. We've never been in that position.
Very often, so.
No, we don't. So this is your presidential moment, Aleppo moment, I guess. What great world leader do you know?
Oh, did I know? Well, I know a lot of
or can you name one?
one I admire the most based on what's been in the news. Well, there's the Pope. Can I do that? The Pope?
Let's
That's
go
a pretty plain
political.
one.
Okay.
I will go with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Oh, I like that.
You like that one?
Yeah, I like that one.
He's kind of got a cool vibe to him.
Yeah, he does.
All right, last question. You wrote a feature. It's out on our website right now, as a matter of fact, about self-driving cars, autonomous vehicles. How many years away do you think we are from seeing those very widespread?
5.
5 years.
5 years. I think we're going to see self-driving cars, as they're called, or autonomous vehicles, AVs. We'll see them in 5 years, a lot sooner than people were expecting. I think Google's getting involved, Apple's getting involved, Detroit is getting involved. A lot of money's been poured in this, and I think we're going to see this. And we're already seeing some of the technology in the cars already.
I'm ready for it, man, because I got to drive to Northwest Arkansas and Jonesboro a lot. And I
Let
can
the
get a lot of
robot
work
drive
done, I know. So, all right, he is Wes Brown. You can read his great work each and every day at talkbusiness.net. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Circuits turn on the lights by making a connection, by closing the loop. At Entergy, we believe our economy is circular too. What you put in comes back. So we invest billions in new infrastructure, which helps attract new industry, which helps create new jobs. We partner with local communities to electrify the economy. And together, we power life. Entergy.
You've likely heard of the Great Arkansas Treasure Hunt. In fact, you or your business may have property to claim in the hunt. But where does this treasure come from? Businesses like yours. The law calls it unclaimed property. If your business is holding money on its books that you've not been able to return to the owner, it's most likely unclaimed property, and the law requires it to be sent to the state auditor's office each year. Auditor Andrea Lee's office can make the process for businesses to comply with the law easy and straightforward. Help us help you return Arkansans' unclaimed property at auditor.ar.gov.
Last week, the Federal Reserve's St. Louis operation released the second quarter Burgundy book, which we touched on with Wes Brown in the earlier segment. It's a look at the highlights and lowlights of economic activity in most of the state of Arkansas, pretty much everything except the Jonesboro region, which is tied to the Memphis area. Here are some takeaways from that latest report. In the financial sector, overall loans in the third quarter were little changed from a year earlier, although a majority of bankers expect loan demand to pick up in the fourth quarter. Favorable weather conditions and a projected increase in harvested acreage is expected to lead to bumper corn, cotton, and rice crops this year. Demand for labor in Arkansas continued to increase. There were fewer than 2 unemployed persons for every advertised vacancy statewide in the second quarter. And you can read more analysis and access the full Burgundy Book Report on our website at talkbusiness.net. That is all for today's program. We'll see you tomorrow.